Ladies and gentlemen, today we have another interesting video to get into because we have a bunch of Switch 2 leaks, rumors, and updates, and I think it's starting to paint a pretty clear picture of how all this is playing out. We have some good news, some bad news, some news that is just, I guess, news, and let's just go ahead and get right into this video. So as you can hear, I am still sick. You can hear it in my voice. And I feel like a medieval peasant, and Nintendo is the only ruler of the land that can help me clear this sickness.
Please, sir, I want
a Nintendo Switch to pre-order date.
That's right, Nintendo. Please, may I have a Switch 2 pre-order, please? Yeah, that would be cool. Regardless, we have a pretty cool video to get into today. So before we get started, if you could hit a like and subscribe, that would truly mean the world to me. If you could consider joining this community, I think we have a pretty cool community. And follow your boy on Twitter and Instagram so we can keep that community growing. That would also be very cool. And let's just go and get right into this video. The rumor is there are currently, I want to say like 2 or 3 million Nintendo Switch 2s in America. And I know a good majority of them, I think, came from Vietnam. So there are some consoles in America, and we have all this tariff business going on. It's delayed, but we don't know really what's going on now. There's potentially even a price increase on the horizon. I hope that's not the case. I kind of think that isn't the case, but never say never, right? But we have to assume the console launch is going to be limited. Now, this is one of the major reasons why we all want to pre-order the console. You can directly pre-order from Nintendo, I think on May 8th, but they have this system to where it's like, you have to have Nintendo Switch Online for a year and had to play over 50 hours. I have multiple Switches and I kind of cycle between those consoles, so I personally cannot hit that threshold. So I'm either going to pre-order it, if possible, and I do think we'll get an update later this week, or I'm going to be in line, like even the day before, so I can get this damn console. When you think about it, there is probably like a good 10 places, maybe more, where you can go in person and buy a Nintendo Switch 2. I'm speaking specifically for the United States. I'm sure it might be different in Europe or in Asia, maybe even up in Canada. I'm not really sure. If I can pick any of these retailers, the two I would like to go to is Best Buy because they are doing a midnight release and that sounds amazing. Or I'm going to go to GameStop. Say what you will about GameStop, but they're there, they are reliable. And I'm going to support GameStop as long as I can because I like the idea of going to a video game store and getting video game stuff, you know? Mom and pop stores these days are like market value and 2 and 3 times the actual price, and it's kind of making it harder to go and support these damn stores. So I'm going to support GameStop as long as possible, and we have an update coming from GameStop about how many consoles will be at each store. So according to some GameStop sources, most GameStop stores are expecting 100 Switch 2 consoles available at launch. So for reference, I live in Louisville, Kentucky. This is a city with about 1 million people. I just typed in Louisville GameStop, and right here there are 7 GameStops. So 7 GameStops, each store gets 100 consoles. That's only 700 Nintendo Switch 2s. That does still sound pretty promising though, because you have to expect a lot of people are going to do pre-ordering, order online, go to other retailers. I live in something called like a tri-state area, so it's a 20-minute drive to Indiana and like a 20-minute drive to Ohio. So that kind of opens up the possibilities for me. But I know a lot of other people might not be as fortunate. But I think 100 Nintendo Switch 2s per GameStop is a good start, a good foundation. Now, the second piece of information here is games and accessories will be extremely limited. So that part doesn't sound that great to me. I think 100 Nintendo Switch 2s are fine for what it is, especially with there being like 10 other retailers and online shopping. But the accessories I don't care that much about as well. I'll probably get third-party stuff. But the games being extremely limited, that is, that's a bummer. I'm going to try to get the bundle so I have Mario Kart World to play. I already have Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom digitally. So I'll just get the upgrade for those and be able to play those. But I want to play Cyberpunk and I want to play, actually I can't remember all the launch games right now, but I want to play some other games. So yeah, this is some good news, but also kind of bad news at the same time. Regardless, we have more Nintendo Switch 2 updates to go over, and this I knew this had to be a thing. From the 3DS to the DS. DS games can go in the 3DS, but 3DS cannot go in the DS because there was like a little ridge or a little thing. You understand what I'm saying, right? But when you see the Nintendo Switch 2 cartridges, it didn't look like that. So I was like, how can this not go in the Nintendo Switch? And if it can go in the Switch, I feel like some way, somehow people can manipulate the system to think it's a Switch 2 and play the software, maybe, but that's not the case. So here is proof that the cartridges are more than just different colors. Obviously Switch and Switch 2, this is more of a straight line. This goes into a straight line, but then opens up right here. So this would be going in. This is the bottom left of the cartridge when it pops in. So there's got to be something right there to where it like pops into place. Yeah, but it is different. So, I mean, it's not the biggest piece of news, but I was assuming that it was different like than just the color. I do like the red cartridge, and I do like the way the game cases look. They are growing on me, both of them. But yeah, small information, sure, but still interesting. So now let's talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 price. Like, yes, it's very expensive, right? And that's one of the caveats, and that's one of the pushbacks against it. And I'm not defending that. I think it is expensive. I think the games are super expensive. I'm obviously one of the people who are going to pay whatever, but I'm still going to criticize it and complain. I'm not happy to do it. But one of the main arguments were like, dude, you can get a digital PS5 cheaper than a Nintendo Switch 2. So why not do that? It's more powerful. The games are going to look better. Whatever. You know what I mean? I like the Nintendo Switch 2 for first party stuff. Third party stuff is going to be awesome. It's portable. It's a home console. I'm sold on the Switch 2, but I understand where people are coming from. Well, now technically the Switch 2 is cheaper than the PS5 digital. Like, I'm not just saying it to say it. PS5 console prices increase yet again for the digital edition, now costs more than a Nintendo Switch 2. So confirmed by Sony in a recent statement, the cost of the PS5 digital edition console has jumped by 40 and 50 euros. The expected price of $390 and $450 is now $430 and 500 euros. For comparison, the Nintendo Switch console costs $395 in the UK. Pretty crazy stuff, right? Is this euros or pounds? This actually might be pounds. Lucky for us, I have some euros right here from when I went to Europe recently. What is the symbol on this? Can I figure it out? Okay, so, oh wait, that's pounds and euros, right? Okay. So this right here is euros and that sign is pounds. The more you know, right? This is the second price hike for digital edition console this generation. Back in August 2022, the console jumped in price from $360 and $400 to $390 and $450, which is crazy, and it jumped really up, it seems like, in Australia. So yes, the Nintendo Switch 2 is still expensive, but technically it is now cheaper than the PS5 digital in Europe and Australia. So I don't know if that's a win or a lose. I really don't even know. Let's move on to a very interesting theory that we will know the answer to. The day I'm recording this is April 14th. This will come out on the 15th. 2 days after is the 17th. That is the day of the Mario Kart World Direct. A lot of questions. We'll have answers that day. I feel like we're going to get a lot of surprises because it's like, what else is there to tell us? But there is this post going around right here. Mario Kart World Continent may be the one under the title logo. So there are still 2 other continents. So I think this is everything that's confirmed, right? They're saying like, what about all this stuff right here? And that would be, I guess, up here maybe, or I really don't know. But it's called Mario Kart World. So maybe there's going to be like a whole nother back of the world, more continents to visit, maybe 2 more. And that's what's going to be shown off at the Direct. And it's like all the areas that we know we can already go is pretty massive, and we have knockout mode. I'm suspecting like an adventure mode or something. A bunch of new characters they have not revealed yet. There's just so much that they could do, but 2 other continents, that would be absolutely insane. That would make this game massive. Does it make sense to do DLC for this thing? Paid DLC, I will hunt Nintendo down, I swear, on everything. They better not do paid DLC, which they probably will, but we have this continent here. Next year, another continent. The year after that, another continent. Okay, that's starting to make the $80 price point seem like, I don't want to say worth it, but it is. It is worth it. Then it's like 500 hours for $80. All right, I guess I'm going to do that, but I'm going to try to get the bundle. But yeah, this is a cool theory going around. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we get out of here, we have an answer to a question we were all asking. Why are the Switch 2 Joy-Cons not Hall Effect? Which is strange. I was expecting them to be Hall Effect. We know the Switch 1 Joy-Cons have Joy-Con drift, but Nintendo did say they redesigned everything from the ground up, so that was kind of reassuring. And it's like, they're not going to have the same issues, hopefully, almost a decade later, and they don't want to have the same lawsuits. So I'm sure we're not going to have the same issues, or it's going to be a lot less frequent. But I found an answer to why we might not have Hall effect joysticks in the Joy-Con 2. And the reasoning is there's an effect called magnetic induction, where typically non-magnetic metal becomes magnetized over time when exposed to persistent non-oscillating magnetic field, like the permanent magnets in the Switch 2. And we know the Switch 2 Joy-Cons snap on magnetically to the Nintendo Switch 2, right? So that's the magnets that they're talking about. You can't shield against it, as the shield will eventually become magnetized. So that would suggest a reason for why Nintendo are not using Hall effect sensors in the Switch 2 Joy-Cons. So is this the official answer? No, it's not, but I do think it paints a picture of why they probably did not go with Hall effect joysticks. And another thing I don't think people realize, Hall effect joysticks can still get Joy-Con drift. I've heard examples of people having Hall effect joysticks for like 2 weeks and then the joysticks getting drift like that fast. Or maybe 8 months later. It can just happen whenever. So this was just something I found interesting, and maybe it's the reason why, maybe not, who knows, right? But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, your opinion matters most, so in the comments below, let me know what you guys are thinking about everything we talked about today. If you made it to this part of the video, hit a like and subscribe. Follow your boy on Twitter and Instagram. Let's keep the community growing. I have some really cool ideas for this next Nintendo generation, and I would really appreciate you to be along for the ride. But you guys know me, I'll see you very soon with a new video. Peace out.